Hello, I wanted to give you an intro into polychords. Polychords are a complex topic that we'll study a lot this term, but this is the beginning. So, as you've been reading, a polychord consists of two separate structures. One is a lower structure on the bottom, and one is an upper structure on the top. And you can see the chord symbol is going to reflect that. The chord symbol has G over here and C major 7 for the lower structure, okay, and that follows through the whole progression here. Right, the lower structure is the one that contains the fundamental harmony. So you will see that C major 7 is the lower structure. It's also the overall chord symbol. So in the key of C, this would be a 1 major 7. Okay, this is an A minor 7, so that is the lower structure. It's also the main chord symbol, and that would get a 6 minor 7. And etc. So you see the lower structure provides the real strong functional harmony. Whereas the upper structure provides the decoration. Look, here's a D, that is a tension. This has a D and also a B, those are two tensions. On this chord, we have an E, which is a tension, and a G, which is a tension. Again, tension compared to the lower structure, right? This is the fundamental harmony. So the G is an 11 of the D minor 7, and the E is a 9 of the D minor 7. And over here we have tensions. We have at both the D flat, the flat 5, and the flat 9 here. And over here we have the sharp 11 and we have the 9, the sharp 11, and the 13. We have all three tensions, okay? So, that is... So, and it's going to sound, it's the complex sound here. It's going to sound like this. Okay, these are the keyboard exercises that I've asked you to play for class. Here's another one. Very jazzy, very complex sound. Okay? Now let me bring up another document that talks about some specifics here. So if I can just get to here, and nope, not wrong one. Okay, so it's a rich voicing common to jazz, R&B, and other complex styles. It's composed of two distinct triads or seventh chords where the lower structure is placed underneath the upper structure. To ensure harmonic function, both the lower structure and the upper structure must fit into the chord scale. Okay, and good voice leading is very important to the sound of the polychords. So this is a C Lydian flat 7 voicing. So it would be used over a C7 chord that was a sub 5 or something like that. So C7 would be the lower structure, D would be the upper structure. So just bear with me. This may be a few repeats, but it's really important. So the upper structure, let's start with the lower structure. That's the basis for the functional harmony. So the overall sound is C7. The lower structure is going to only have the chord tones. The root must be at the bottom, so this is going to be a root position C major chord, and C will be the lowest note. No inversions, okay? This may be a triad or a seventh chord. Often it's a seventh chord, but you will omit the fifth. And there may be open voicings or closed voicings depending on the situation. I'll give you a little bit more detail in a second about that. And it might even alternate between the two. And make sure you voice lead these lower structures, okay? So you might, if you have a pattern of polychords, you may have several chords in a row. Make sure you voice lead them well. All right, now the upper structure, by comparison, is kind of a decoration to the functional harmony. It does usually not contain the 1 or the 3 of the lower structure, okay, or the Lydian, flat 7, the C Lydian flat 7 chord scale in this case. It must contain at least one tension of the overall, C7, C Lydian flat 7 chord scale. There will not be any avoid notes in the upper or lower structure, but especially not the upper. And upper structures may be a triad or seventh chord as long as everything fits into, again, the overall C Lydian flat 7 chord scale. Usually we're going to use close voicings for the upper structure, and we're going to voice lead the upper structures, of course. And, if we look at the keyboard thing one more time, you'll see that the voice leading is just pristine on the upper structure, and the voice leading on the lower structure, well, it leaps around a little bit here, but it's pretty good. The voice leading is pretty good. Okay, so these are some lower structure voicing types. You could have a close position triad. This is again the lower structure. A close position seventh with the fifth missing. An open position triad, so 1, 5, 3. That's kind of a wide spacing. Or an open seventh, where we have the 1, the 7th, and the 3rd. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go over to my .cam over here. And here's a visual representation of how those lower structures might be written, a few different ways to write them. And there's some other possibilities as well, okay? Now, if you're voice leading the lower structure, you might end up with something like this. So in the first chord, close position triad, second chord, close position seventh without the fifth, third chord, wide position, open position, seventh chord without the fifth. Next one, open, close position, seventh chord without the fifth. And then last one, triad, open position, no seventh on that one. Okay, so again, we're going to alternate possibly between the different voicing styles in the left hand, in the lower structure. Okay, and so let's take a couple chord scales. We'll take C Dorian and C mixo flat 9 sharp 9 flat 13, and we'll try to figure out what the polychords might be. So in the lower structure, of course, we're going to use either a C minor or a C minor 7. So in the lower structure, we're going to use one of the two, and that's given, right? So the tough part is figuring out the upper structure. Now for the upper structure, we don't want to include any avoid notes, and we don't want to have redundancy. So we wouldn't want to put a C on the upper structure because we've already got all the C notes. We wouldn't want to put E flat major on the upper structure because we've already got all those notes in the lower structure. Okay, so we want to start on something different. So we found out we can't start on 3. We can't start on 4 because then we would get F, A, C, and that would be an avoid note. We don't want to do that. So what we're going to start on is 5. Let's see if that works. 5, so G, B flat, D. So that would be a nice upper structure. So G minor would be a possibility. Okay? We can also extend that G, B flat, D, F to the 7th chord because this note is a tension. So G minor 7. And we could, but that's all on the 5th. We can't do the 6th because that's the avoid note. So let's start on the 7th. B flat, D, F. That is a fine upper structure. So B flat major. So if we have a C Dorian voicing and we want to put say a C on the bottom, we could use a G minor, a G minor 7, or a B flat, and those would all be a nice sound. For example, if we were going, and then we could go like something like that, and then so that voicing would be nice for a C Dorian, on like a 2 chord, something like that. All right, so these are our possibilities for a Dorian chord scale, right? Now let's try a Mixolydian flat 9 sharp 9 flat 13. So again, we're not going to use the avoid notes, and we're going to try not to have a lot of redundancy. So, I've tried to mention a couple times that 5, 7, and 9 are good places to start. So, but in this case, if we use 5, we go 5, G, B flat, D flat, and we end up with a diminished. So that's probably not a good idea. So lower structure, C7 or C probably. All right, so that's probably not going to work very well. What if we start on the 7th? B flat, D flat, F. that is going to be an avoid note. So, flat 7 will not work in this case either. Okay? And what about the ninth? So, D flat, F, A flat. That doesn't really work that well either. So what are we going to do here? So we need some kind of creative solutions for something like this. One of them would be to use, start on flat 13. Then we have A flat, C, and E flat. And that will give us an A flat major over C, which, although we do have the root duplicated because it's in the bass and the treble, but we've got two tensions. We've got the A flat, the flat 13, and the E flat, the sharp 9. So that's going to make for a nice voicing. Another possibility would be to go D flat, E natural, and A flat, because that, although it does use the third, which is usually not in the upper structure for polychords, but it does have the flat 9 and the flat 13, so D flat minor is a possibility, okay? And then, yeah, so that's pretty much, those are pretty much the good ones, all right? Now, you might think, oh, this is tedious to go through this process every time we want to figure out what a good polychord would be. So this is a document that's available for you, should be on the website somewhere, that has, if you have an Ionian, these are sort of the possibilities. Everything's been transposed so that C is the bass note of the lower structure. And you'll see that, Phrygian's not very good. We'll go through a bit, these a little bit more in class, of course. But Mixolydian's not that great either for polychords. Locrian's not that great. But Lydian flat 7, amazing. Altered dominant, amazing. Tons of possibilities. So please see this document created by my colleague Eric Byers. And I've made some notes just to help you understand it a little bit, okay? So, hope you have a better understanding of polychords now.